All right, guys. Are we live? Are we not live?
Hold on. I don't know.
God, the X-Files was a hell of a show.
Don't know what that is.
Yeah, you're only 3 years younger than me. Like, the X-Files was big when I was growing up. Have you ever watched an episode of the X-Files?
I mean,
It was a sitcom from the 80s.
Well, here, I'll give you a hint.
But I feel like if it was good, if it was actually good, I would know about it.
Well, watching Nick Saban's year 2, 3, and 4 at Alabama is just like watching the X-Files. So just do that and you'll know what I mean.
Did you watch The Twilight Zone?
No.
But
He
you know what
watched
that
Twilight,
is.
though. He watched Twilight.
Love Twilight.
But you watch Twilight. You don't watch The Twilight Zone, but you'll watch
Blaine's
Twilight.
big Twilight
I don't
guy.
know what that even means.
Were you
I know
Team
what
Edward
it
or
means.
Team Jacob?
I know what it means.
Team Edward.
Would you stop decapitating?
Don't
the
talk.
confused
These are
bobblehead?
exactly what these are meant to do.
not
It's
for
bobble.
not while I'm talking and it's just looking at me.
I want to ask
I don't
Coach
like
Hugh
that.
Freeze.
It's like hypnotizing.
Was my turkey yesterday elite? Yes. Yes.
You kept the pause there. It's Flamin' Dragon Friday. I'm Jake Crane, and this is Crane and Company. Normally at this time, I would be giving you the best monologue you've ever heard in your life. But instead, we want to talk about some Friday matchups because they're juicier than the turkey that came out of the oven yesterday. Conathan, what's on the plate
Big
tonight?
games today. Give me some keys to victory and then pick a winner. Let's start with the Florida Gators at the Florida State Seminoles.
Billy needs this one. It's been kind of up and down year one. Some Florida fans are pulling to Jodie Foster, running to the panic room. Is everything okay? Looking at a picture of Urban Meyer. Some understand that it takes time. And I think Billy's going to be fine. But Florida State, Mike Norvell, you beat LSU week 1. Jordan Travis has been really efficient this year as a passer. I think the key, look, Anthony Richardson's going to have to do some witchy stuff. He's just going to have to. The games that they've won, Anthony Richardson has made big plays with his legs. And I'm not talking about having to hit a 70-yard home run consistently or 55-yarder, 70-yarder. But those 3rd and 9s, being able to find a way to get it. Maybe he breaks a couple tackles, shakes a tackle KJ Jefferson style, finds somebody over the middle. I don't think they're going to be able to line up and just shove it at Florida State. Then on the Florida State side, it's really, and I don't want this to sound lazy, it's just continuing to be yourself. You know, it's like that show on ABC, This Is Us. Jordan, we're running the ball. Jordan Travis outside the pocket. Johnny Wilson going up and high pointing the ball, making big plays. I think if Florida State continues to play as disciplined and as sound as they have this year, that's been the biggest jump from the old Florida State. Not just Jordan Travis playing better, but they seem like they're all moving in the same direction. Seems like that they're holding each other accountable, and the best teams police themselves. Florida State, 9.5-point favorite. I think they win by a touchdown. Anthony Richardson makes a couple big plays. Very underrated rivalry, in my opinion. But give me the Seminoles at home to complete a very nice regular season in a year that Mike Norvell needed to
He was on the hot seat.
He was
on the hot seat. I want to see that Gators offense who was gashing the run game against Utah early in the season. I want to see Anthony Richardson throwing for 450 like he did against Tennessee. I think Billy Napier is going to have success at Florida. But for tonight, I'm going to take the Florida State Seminoles, Jordan Travis and the boys.
Florida State Seminoles big. I'd buy it up to 2
Big.
touchdowns. Yeah.
Buy it up to
Big.
I think they beat them. I
touchdowns?
think they beat them bad.
Really?
Yeah, I
What
do.
makes you say that?
Just because Florida's just a one-dimensional football team. They are. They want to run the ball. They want to run the ball. Anthony Richardson, 55% complete percentage. That's what Anthony Richardson is right now. And I've said this throughout the whole year. He's one of those guys, he gets off the bus, he looks great. He's a great player, but he's still developing as a thrower in college football.
He could use another year.
And this Florida State team, it's not just a walk in the park, normal Florida State team right now. I mean, I think their last 5, I think the only loss they had was Clemson, and by what? By a touchdown. Jordan Travis, 21 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 70% something completion percentage. He's balling right now. You want to talk about one of the most improved players from last year and this year? It's Jordan Travis. Run game's there. I mean, you have an absolute redwood playing receiver out there to the right in the Florida Gators defense. Not too impressive. There's stuff going on in that locker room. I think Billy will sooner or later get it fixed. I'm not too stoked on the hire, never was, but I think he does need time. But give me Florida State big.
All right, next one, Baylor at Texas.
I think this may be a bloodbath. I think Baylor, shot their shot last week against TCU. That was a heartbreaker at the end. They, ran emergency field goal on, and a game that Baylor should have won. Blake Shapen, we talk about Jordan Travis a second ago and how much, we've seen him grow. I think Blake Shapen's been one of the biggest disappointments at the quarterback position in college football this year. I really think he has. I didn't expect Baylor's defense to be what they were last year with some of the things they lost, but I thought the offense would be able to make up a little bit for it with Blake Shapen. You always trust a good shortstop, but he really, has kind of let people down this year, and I'm not trying to attack the kid, but look, it's the season of NIL. Y'all get paid for the stuff now. You're going to get treated like guys that get paid to play do. I think that's only fair. I think one comes with the other. I don't care how old you are. It's just like a child actor gets critiqued too. Rotten Tomatoes doesn't give you a better grade because the child actor's 8 years old. So when I look at this matchup, Texas to me, we talked about when you get leads, leaning on Bijan Robinson, who absolutely tore it up last week after coming off a game against TCU where he disappeared, I think under 40 yards, somewhere around there. Quinn Ewers, we talk about the footwork needs to improve. I think they let out a little rage last week. I think they want to finish on a high note, getting into this offseason, getting ready for what could be a big year next year with what I think Sark's going to be able to do in the portal, a young offensive line that's growing. We all know the NIL collective there. Don't be shocked if you see some movement to Texas like you saw to USC from some big-time players, even though, Xavier Worthy, a little bit interesting on Instagram when you look on social media. Seems like some guys aren't exactly thrilled about what's going on right now. I just think Texas is way too much. Like you think Florida State's going to be a bloodbath against Florida, I think Texas is going to beat them by at least 2 touchdowns.
Texas 2-2 in their last 4. 3 of those were on the road. I do feel like Quinn Ewers is still that 1 year away from really being a superstar. And I was very impressed with the way Baylor played TCU. But I'm going to take the Texas Longhorns at home.
I do think Texas is a better team, but the one thing about Blake Shapen, I mean, he's a good player, but he just doesn't have a lot of feel at the quarterback position. I mean, he's a great runner, but a lot of feel is not there. They're a great running football team, but I do like Texas in this game. 8.5-point spread for Texas. I think they cover that. Bijan will be a guy to go. This defense for Baylor is not the same.
I think, and I'm glad we disagree on something here. I disagree with Blake Shapen. I think Blake just runs on feel. He doesn't like I don't think he does the little things. Like when I look at him and he's a one-read guy. That's really what he is. I don't know if Blake Shapen really knows what he's looking at from a coverage standpoint. I think he's just improvising. I think he's more of a whose line is it anyway guy than a Daniel Day-Lewis guy. And I think you need to be somewhat of a mixture there. Because, again, Blaine, you know this. The shortstop, when you watch some of the throws that Blake Shapen makes, like he made a throw last week against TCU in between the linebacker and the safety on the run going to the right run. Like that is an Aaron Rodgers-esque throw. There is 5, maybe 7% of quarterbacks in college football that can make that throw. I just don't think he knows what he's looking at. I legitimately, and that may be surprising to say with a Jeff Grimes coached offense. We saw what he did for Zach Wilson and BYU, but when I watch Blake play, Blaine, and I'm watching him look at leverage and I'm watching him operate, he rarely gets to the second read, and he just, great example. Last week against TCU, you got to get 1 first down to beat him. It's 3rd and 7. They ran it twice, trying to get TCU to burn those timeouts. They run a play action. Your second read outside of the first flat guy is the tight end on the over. TCU didn't even cover him. Blake Shapen didn't even look at him. First read's not there, I'm tucking and running. Maybe he got a little nervous because he didn't want to turn the ball over and he realized they didn't have any timeouts. But and you may be right, Blaine, but just when I watch him, I feel like he's a Jackson Pollock instead of, an Andy Warhol. You're not, I don't know. It's the best way I can explain it.
I mean, he's got 2,500 passing yards on the season. So I feel like there is a certain extent to where he knows what he's looking at. And I feel like I don't think he's a one-read guy. You don't see that a lot. I just don't think he can do anything outside of what you need him to do as in a quarterback making plays. He'll get outside the pocket and he either tuck it or just chunk it down the field. A guy who will sit out there, feel everything out, and even if you don't know what you're seeing, you should have the feel to find open guys. Right?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like
that's all he operates on. Like that's my argument.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, I can understand that. That's fine. But 9 interceptions. And against a team like Texas, where your defense is not the same as last year, giving up 140 rushing yards per game, which is not a Dave Aranda defense that I know that gets coached. So I just don't think Blake Shapen is enough. I feel like Quinn and them are going to have a big game. Still disappointed in Bijan in that TCU game. Had a good game last week, but TCU's defensive line is nothing to be.
That's when they need it. And Baylor ran through TCU
like it wasn't nothing,
like a sieve.
So if I'm Texas, I am turning around and handing the ball off
for sure.
Big rivalry matchup with NC State going to North Carolina. NC State lost their last two. North Carolina was on the fringe of that playoff conversation, lost to Georgia Tech at home last weekend. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, it's like I said before the season, whoever you put NC State in the playoff, that was never happening. Okay, it was never, ever, ever happening. I think they're elite in the secondary and some things they can do, and they have to win games on defense now, especially that Devin Leary was out. But guys, when Devin Leary was in, they were having to win games on defense. To be honest with you, I think Devin Leary may be one of the biggest letdowns of the season at quarterback with all the hype this guy got, and he does spin a pretty ball.
He does.
He spins a really pretty ball. But there's been a lot of pitchers that the fastball looks good and they got nothing else. So I do think North Carolina's angry. I think North Carolina, while they were living on borrowed time, I think Drake May looks back at that game with a chance, to elevate himself up in the Heisman. And North Carolina really controlled their own destiny, in my opinion, if you looked at it. Lost to a Georgia Tech team who basically had a stepfather as the coach after dad went out to get milk and never came back. I like North Carolina in this game because while NC State defensively is good, Drake May, I think the dam will break a little bit. I think North Carolina scores enough points, maybe a little bit closer than the spread gives because it is a rivalry game, but give me the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I like the Tar Heels too. I think Drake May shows out after that poor performance last weekend. Blaine?
I don't know. I just don't know if I can ever be that confident betting on a North Carolina defense that's this bad because they're terrible. I mean, I know you only gave up 21 versus Georgia Tech, but that's not impressing to anybody. You're averaging giving up 32 points a game. So almost 200 yards rushing per game. Even with the NC State offense, who's incompetent without Devin Leary in there, was better, but not what we thought they would be. I mean, if you can still just turn around and hand the ball off, which NC State will do against a North Carolina defense that is this bad, who only put up 17 points against a Georgia Tech team, spread 6.5. I don't think you'd be crazy to put money line NC State here at plus 200.
All right, we got Tulane at Cincinnati.
Ooh. Yeah, ranked matchup. Ben Bryant, you talk about lack of feel. You look at Ben Bryant and you watch some of the throws he makes and you're like, NFL player. And then you turn on the tape and when you're not watching the highlight film, you're like, I don't know. This guy struggles to consistently make the throws that you have to make. The deep ball, he's Joe Milton with the deep ball. I'm going to overthrow everybody. I may throw it out of the stadium. You can't fly blimps over the stadium because he may hit one with a deep ball and kill everybody on it. That's why Goodyear won't sponsor any of their games. But when I look at Tulane and I look at Pratt, some of the veterans they have on offense, we've seen them, against UCF. That was a big, a disappointment for them with all the juice they had going into that game. And if we had the 12-team playoff, you talk about games that mattered. How about Tulane losing to UCF at home and then UCF losing to Navy at home? It would be just a conjunction junction. Liberty losing to UConn. Who's going to be that 12th team that's that G5 team? But I do think Cincinnati at home, while that defense hasn't been as elite as I thought they were going to be. I know they lost Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant on the outside, but they still returned some guys, especially in that front seven that we really liked. I feel like this game is going to be overtly physical. I feel like this game is going into overtime, and I think Cincinnati kicks a field goal to win it in the second overtime.
I like that. I thought Tulane would have a better performance at home against Central Florida. I think I like Cincinnati in this game too. I'll take Cincinnati. You have them by a field goal?
I got them by a field goal.
All right, I'll
it's a pick 'em. You got to think both these teams lost to UCF.
What's the line right now?
-1 Cincinnati.
-1 Cincinnati.
Over under 46.5. Guys, I really just don't know with this game. I would lean Cincinnati just because
it's almost default home.
Yeah, I would lean Cincinnati for that reason, but this Tulane team's somewhat of a problem. Pratt can sling it. Spears, good back. I'm going to see he'll have 1,000.
They're at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're at Cincinnati. Yeah, so I would lean Cincinnati in this game. But to be honest with you, if I had to touch it, I would.
I'm not going to bet this game.
Yep. Gotcha.
All right, so we're going to predict, obviously, the Michigan-Ohio State when Steve
We'll do that. Yeah, that one. And then we're going to talk about, we also have a live stream tomorrow.
Yes.
We're going to do.
Yep.
Tell people to check that out.
Yes.
You want an SEC matchup here with Arkansas at Missouri?
Man, this game, from a betting game, you talk about a game I'm not going to touch. We've seen Brady Cook. You go back through the season and you look at kind of what if for Missouri. You look at the Auburn game. You look at some of these other games where they've had a chance and kept themselves in the game. Georgia, games like that where you could have had a totally different season if you're Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri. And I think the Missouri fans, Eli's close, man. Eli's close. I don't think, we talk about hot seat. Maybe he's an SEC coach, maybe in some trouble. If Missouri fires Eli Drinkwitz, I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy with the way he's recruiting. I mean, you get Luther Burden to come in, the number one player. I think he's going to continue to progress. We know how uberly talented that guy is. But you look at Arkansas last week, what they did against Ole Miss, that looked like the Arkansas I thought we were going to get. Now, they've had a barrage of injuries on the defensive side as well. We know that with Catalan being out early for the rest of the season and similar situations. Bumper Pool just feels like, no Grant Morgan on that defense has made a big difference. I think Grant Morgan may have been one of the most underrated players defensively in college football, kind of like Nick Bolton was the year before for Missouri. We see what he's doing with the Chiefs. My gut tells me Arkansas in this game because KJ Jefferson, I think, can be the difference. But I'm going to pick Missouri to win it. I'm going to pick Missouri to win this game as the underdog. What are the odds on that for the money line?
Money line is plus 130.
I do not think it'd be crazy to take Missouri money line in this game.
And they are fighting for bowl eligibility.
That's
they
a big factor.
5-6.
Arkansas clinched it against Ole Miss.
They sit here at 5-6, and like you said, Arkansas just clinched. But I'm going to go with the Razorbacks, Blaine.
Give me Missouri in this game. Impressed with Arkansas on offense, obviously, what they did against Ole Miss. But this Missouri's defense, especially this front,
there's so much improved.
Missouri is so much.
You remember
better.
how bad they were last year? Cone? They were North Carolina last year. Defensively. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whatever, you could do whatever you want.
That's exactly right.
120 yards.
They had the kid that transferred in from Rice, I believe, the linebacker that they thought was going to, really help elevate that defense. And it's not just on him. It's not on one guy. But they would get used and abused. I'm talking about, just beat to death in that front seven last year. A big jump, which shows promise, I think. But this game, I think this may be one of the sneakiest, best games of the year.
To watch.
Like, I really think this one may be really back and forth at the end. You may get something crazy. Part of me thinks Hail Mary. Like, part of me is leaning something crazy. I know that's kind of a Babe Ruth call your shot situation, but I do like Missouri in the upset in this game. And guys, what a great slate of games on a Friday coming off the Thursday that we just had.
Yep.
I mean, it's football-a-palooza. We got college basketball, some great matchups as well. It's just a very cool sports time as we progress toward the NFL playoffs. We get closer to actually knowing the Final Four. Made my prediction on Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. But this is a great kind of dessert after the Thanksgiving meal from yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some other games here.
Just to see a couple lines. Are there any that really jump out to you?
Yeah, you see any lines over there that you really like for?
I know Auburn, Alabama's at 22. I'm looking at that over/under. It's supposed to rain. I'm guessing Auburn's not going to do anything but
even tonight. You said Arizona State rivalry matchup.
Man,
Arizona's -4 at home.
West Virginia, Oak State.
Well, I locked this one in. I locked in Arizona State -2.5 on Wednesday. I'm sorry, Arizona -2.5 on Wednesday because I think Arizona State, the wheels just fell off the wagons this year. I think you wouldn't be crazy to take them and buy them up. Arizona to -6.5. Maybe get some plus money. I think that's when you get to plus 100.
I like that too. I like that too. How about this one? How about Nebraska at Iowa? And Iowa's -10.5 right now. Now I'm not saying Nebraska can win the game, but don't you like giving Nebraska 10.5 points in this?
I mean, what's the over/under in that game?
Over/under is 38.5.
I mean, Nebraska offensively, there's Spider-Man Jiff in Iowa right now, and I just do not trust Petrus. You couldn't score a combined over 26.5 points. I don't care if it was snowing fire. You should be able to score over 26 combined points. Like, unless there's a flood or a landslide or Chris Pratt from Tomorrow War came out of a portal halfway in the game and told us the White Spikes are coming. That's the only excuse. But this game, I think it's going to be gross. It's going to be gross, and Iowa's going to win. And I believe, isn't Purdue going to be the one that represents the Big Ten West? Isn't that what it's looking like right now? If they win out?
I think it's going to be Iowa.
I think it's going to be Iowa.
Because Iowa has the head-to-head against them.
That's right.
Now, Iowa finishes with Nebraska, and I think Purdue finishes with Indiana, maybe?
Which just went on the road and beat Michigan State. By the way, did y'all see...
They finished with Indiana? So I think Iowa has the head-to-head against them.
By the way, did y'all see the Mel Tucker thing? And I don't know I can't corroborate if this is true or not. But if this is true, apparently Mel Tucker got a $100,000 bonus to be split up between him and his coaching staff. And again, I am not confirming this report, but apparently he kept all of it to himself.
What? Mel Tucker?
Here's what I'm going to say.
Where'd you hear that? Or how would that get out?
I think unnecessary roughness, or somebody tweeted it out. It really caught fire yesterday. It seemed like somewhat of a genuine report. If that's the case, I would never want to work for Mel Tucker. If I'm an assistant on that staff, I am trying to find a way out, if that's true. I hope that's not true. Everything I've heard about Mel Tucker, that really doesn't line up. But if you did that, man, you can never sit here and talk about we and us ever again to me.
What a leader.
Yeah. If that's true, that's awful.
Maybe our Booster Club boy Ben has some info on that.
Yeah, Ben, let us know.
Ben, let us know what the deal is on
We're going to
that.
find that.
Do
that
some
Paul
fact
Bunyan
checking
thing.
for us.
So that's a story to me that is very interesting. And the Michigan State players, you see, you had during that brawl, you have one charge with felonious assault. You have 5 other guys charged with what went down in the tunnel. Look, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I don't care if somebody jogged up the tunnel and was talking trash. You can't jump the guy. You just can't do it. But speaking about jumping to something else, we have our buddy from the Steve Deace Show, a guy that we love to talk to. We brought him on before the season. I got to give him credit. All right, this is a street cred situation. Steve said that Michigan was a more physical team than Ohio State. That's how they beat him last year. Cone, you spoke to this, and I believe it rings true this year. So Steve Deace from the Steve Deace Show is going to join us on this beautiful Friday, the day before it goes down, before Michigan goes to Ohio State, hopefully in a mix of flurries, snow, hellfire, demons and angels, whatever book about the Da Vinci Code is out there. Our buddy Steve Deace. Steve, give us a little preview. Number 1, welcome back to the show. Number 2, give us a little preview of Michigan, Ohio State, the game that could lead to the game that could lead to the game.
Well, guys, let me just say, first of all, as an old school guy, where is Woody Hayes in his short sleeves, no matter what weather it is? To hear Ohio State radio guys say all games should be played in domes, Ohio State's AD to say, if we have home playoff games, we're going to move them to the dome and the expanded playoff. And I saw a guy at the Weather Channel say he has never gotten more requests for the long-term forecast from the state of Ohio in his entire life. All right. But I think it speaks to, this is really the first time in the history of the rivalry, even when, Jim Tressel came in, he was a spread guy. We were still running pro style, but that was a power offense. Philosophically, the programs weren't much different. This is like an NCAA tournament matchup. And Ohio State is the team that wants to get up and down the court and play the game in the 80s. And Michigan's the team that wants to play it possession by possession. And the typical axiom in that environment is it's always easier to slow a team down than it is to speed them up. And I would have said the same thing a couple of weeks ago. I am concerned about the injury list for Michigan. Ohio State has its own injuries as well, but they're injuries that impact their potency, but not the ability for them to play their style of football. Like, obviously, they'd be better with Jackson Smith and Jigba, but they've got 4 or 5 other, All-Americans there, including maybe the Blitnikoff winner, so they can still play the way they want. If we don't have Blake Corum, we don't have Donovan Edwards, we don't have Mike Morris on the other side, then no, we aren't going to be able to just sit back and play zone and confuse C.J. Stroud like we did last year and just rush 4. No, we're not going to be able to control the clock and limit possessions by running the football and keeping them off the field. It would force us to play a different style of football. And so right now, I think a lot of this game, if you're an Ohio State fan, you're nervous about the weather. And if you're a Michigan fan, you're nervous about the injury report.
Without a doubt. And, the biggest question is going to come down to, in my opinion, if Ohio State is able to not play at an elite level offensively in that weather, even though, like you alluded to, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s and Alien Igbuka, the guys that got running around there on the outside with Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams. I know they've been beat up, but, I think those guys are going to go this game. If I'm Ohio State, why do I not force J.J. McCarthy to beat me through the air? Why would I not do it? I would load the box like a fat kid packing his own lunch to go to school. Why would I not do that?
So early in the season, we were surprised more teams didn't do this. And I think because of the film of how well JJ threw downfield last year, even in spot duty, and then, of course, his running ability, I think teams gave us a lot of respect. And then I think after the Penn State game, when we put up 400 on the ground, and that's not when you just beat a team, you've gender transitioned them. All right, you have emasculated them as a program. Okay, when you do that to them, and so I think after that, teams just kind of said, okay, we can't let them do this to us every week. And slowly but surely, more and more, especially starting with Nebraska, and then Illinois did something very clever last week where they made it look like they were playing a single high safety with 8 in the box, and then at the snap, one guy would run back into coverage like a zone blitz and kind of confuse us. But the last few weeks, teams have said, all right, we just can't let Blake Corum own us like this. Against Nebraska, he had 168 yards, no rushes, though, over 12. And so they have said, all right, you show us that you can matriculate the ball down the field throwing it. And Michigan has shown, and they have tried. The last few weeks, Michigan has tried repeatedly to put the ball game into his hands. I was at the Nebraska game. I was fortunate to get connections for a box, so I was able to see the all 22. And David can tell you from his time as a player, the eye in the sky never lies. Mm-hmm. And you see stuff from that. You see stuff from that angle you don't see watching on TV. And what you see is receivers that don't get separation. You see unsophisticated route trees. You see poor timing with receivers. The kind of stuff that you're not going to fix in a week, that you have to fix in 15 bowl practices or a spring. And so the one thing that Michigan can do Saturday, going into last week, and I don't know what the updated numbers are, but going into last week, Michigan was the #1 play action QBR team in college football. Which makes sense, right, with the way they run the ball. Yeah. They just don't do it a lot. They were running on average 4 play action passes a game. That is one thing they can do, is play action Ohio State to death. Watching Jim Knowles in the Big 12, that's not a man ball league. It's more of a Don Brown style of offense, and I think that's what they will do. He was hired for this game, to not let Michigan run down the field, down their throats. I think you will see a lot of cover 1, a lot of cover 0, and then it'll be up to see if J.J. McCarthy can execute on play action. He missed several touchdowns last week on play action passes that would have put that game, even after Blake Corum was injured, would have put that game out of reach.
Well, if I'm Michigan, I'm pitching backwards. I'm play action on first down, especially.
Yeah, and they've tried to do that a few weeks. And sometimes I've been even critical of that, because then oftentimes they'll line up in 2nd and 10. Now, sometimes it has worked, but sometimes they'll line up in 2nd and 10 in situations when I think Blake Corum could have ripped off 6 or 7 yards on that first down. Steve, thanks for joining us again. On the weather front, obviously we know if it's sleeting, if it's hailing, if there are more elements, if there's sub-freezing conditions, that will bode well for Michigan's identity. And I agree with you, it is weird to see both teams not really have that sort of blue-collar mentality that we had grown used to in Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes' days. But one thing I've been saying to Michigan fans, if you're sitting around and you're just praying for weather elements because that's what you need to win the football game, get that out of your mind. You need to go beat your biggest rival any place, anytime, in any weather, indoors, outdoors. That's the mentality that Michigan needs to go into this game with, because it is going to be a hostile environment. What do you say about that?
Completely agree. I mean, the last time, David, we won there, I just married off my oldest daughter a month ago.
Okay? Congratulations.
Thank you. She wasn't born the last time we won there. All right. She's a wife now with a husband. She wasn't born, guys, the last time we won a game there. Let me repeat. She's a wife now with a husband, and she wasn't born there last time we won there, all right? So, I mean, we were watching Florida hanging Chad updates the last time we won there, not watching a Republican win a governor's race by 19 points in Florida. That's not so much the world has changed since the last time that Michigan has won there. There is a strange dynamic to this, though, guys. There's no pressure on Michigan at all, which is odd. We're the defending champions. We were a preseason top 10 team, but everybody, all the intelligentsia all offseason barely talked about us, acted like it was an outlier. Jim got his win. We all move on. We know now Ohio State kind of restores order. There is a ton of pressure on them. Mike, Ryan Day fired one of his best friends to bring Mike Knowles in. Everything is about this game. And so you do kind of wonder, if they don't put Michigan away early, if Michigan hangs around, and David, this is a game this kind of reminds me of 1996 a little bit. Now we're a better team than that 1996 team was that had 4 losses. But Ohio State was a 17-point favorite in that game, the biggest underdog Michigan had been in the history of Vegas in the game, and a number 2 and undefeated. And Michigan won that game because they hung around long enough, and then Ohio State started feeling the pressure. When you watch that game even today on YouTube or tape, Keith Jackson's calling it. You can just feel the pressure in the stadium is building. Are they going to do it to us again? And so I think for Michigan, everybody kind of thinks if you go back and watch last year's game, Michigan jumped out and kind of ambushed them. We didn't. We were actually trailing at the half of the game last year. What we did is the style you're seeing this year. We pounded the ball, and then in the second half, we just completely wore them out. Michigan needs to withstand the early onslaught. There will be an early onslaught of emotion from Ohio State. If this, though, is like 17-10, 14-6, something like that going into the half, They've withstood that early onslaught, and there's now a chance for them to play the second half at their pace. But that's what they have to avoid, because the amount of emotion that will pour out there early on, given what's been pent up there all year long, will work to Ohio State's favor. What Michigan wants to do is make the game a slog so that emotion then goes from exuberance to pressure by the time we get to the fourth quarter.
This will be the 13th meeting between the two teams where both are ranked in the top 5. In those 12 previous meetings, the home team has won 10 of them, and one was a tie. But talking about children, my son has never seen Michigan lose to Ohio, Steve, so it's super one-sided right now. This Michigan defense has gotten better every single week. I've been very, very proud of the way they've been playing football. On the offensive side of the ball, while we have been running the ball very good, especially when Blake Corum was healthy before the injury this past weekend, Ronnie Bell and Andrell Anthony and some of those guys, Roman Wilson, haven't been making the plays that they were earlier in the season. We saw Andrell Anthony had that drop touchdown that was crucial in the Illinois game. I've been telling these guys, J.J. McCarthy needs to play his best game or Michigan will not beat Ohio. Will J.J. McCarthy play his best game tomorrow?
I think to answer that question, we have to ask another question, David. Will they let him? Will they give him the chance to? I think it is very clear that he has not fully developed trust yet. And if you go back and I go back to the Georgia game last year in the playoff, and we all kind of thought that the Georgia quarterback was a game manager, and a lot of us in the Michigan fandom and media, hey, is Cade McNamara even better than the Georgia quarterback? They go out in the first half, and they run 13 RPOs in one half, and that quarter put the ball in his hands, and he just blew us up. That might have matched the total amount of RPOs Michigan ran all of last year, and that's what Georgia ran in the first half. I think JJ ran like 2 RPOs. And if you go down the stretch against Illinois, we're still running a walk-on running back on 2nd and long to get 5 yards to set up a third conversion, like we would if Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards were in the game. Yep. So the question is, are they willing to trust him or not? And it's not as easy as, well, you won't win the game without it, because here's what you need to think about. Look at the college football playoff rankings right now. ESPN's FPI gives Michigan a 64% chance of making the playoff with a loss to Ohio State.
Yep, I saw.
All right, if USC still has to play Notre Dame and somebody else, Oregon or Washington, in the Pac-12 championship game. TCU right now, the early line on that game against Kansas State is like a 2-point spread.
I got Kansas State winning that game. I got Kansas State winning that game. Will Howard's hotter than a fat kid in a sleeping bag right now.
All we need is Georgia to hold serve and one of those 2 teams to lose. And where's the 4th team come from?
Let me say, I don't mean to cut you off, but in my opinion, I think the loser of this game has to have 2 out of the 3 of TCU, USC, and Clemson lose. I think if Clemson does run the table... I don't think Clemson's in it.
I don't think Clemson is in it.
We disagree there. That's, to me, the biggest question for the committee. If Clemson beats a South Carolina team, which I believe they should. They're not going to replicate it. And then North Carolina probably in the ACC championship. That's where I think it's going to come down to, Steve. We'll see.
You may be right. Go ahead.
The problem is they've not set up, this committee for years has set up narratives to give itself the outcome that it wants, right? It has set up no narrative to set up no narrative with Clemson. I mean, Clemson's behind Alabama. It has set up no narrative for them to jump all of these teams. I think what they need is 2 of 3 to happen. LSU doesn't beat Georgia, or win out, I should say, and TCU doesn't go undefeated, and USC doesn't win out. And so if you're Jim Harbaugh, you're thinking to yourself, if I put the game in JJ's hands, yes, we could win. We also might lose 31-17. Okay? If I run my same style of offense and make it a slog, maybe we have less chances to win, but we might lose 28 to 21. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And those two games look different, a lot different in the eyes of the committee. And those are more things to think about when your quarterback hasn't shown yet that he can take over a football game. It's not that easy with that added calculus now.
It's you don't have Walter Mitty's computer. You can't just plug in a formula and find it
Very risky strategy, but you might be right.
Well, Steve, we've been talking about the Michigan offense a lot. I want to talk about the Michigan defense. All right, let's. Right now, the best offense they played is the 37th ranked offense in Penn State. Other than that, they've played really not really good offenses. And you're about to walk into Ohio State, who has one of the best and most dynamic offenses in the country. Are you worried about Michigan's defense being able to hang with this absolute athletic wide receiver core and one of the Heisman finalists at quarterback in Ohio State?
I think our secondary is actually better than it was a year ago.
I agree
and I
with
think
that.
it's better in coverage than it was a year ago as well. And so I also don't think we have to defend. I think last year you could not afford to double team Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. And if you go back and watch last year's game, this idea of the snow, first of all, Stroud almost threw for 400 yards. They only made it a game because those guys made hero ball catch after hero ball catch after hero ball catch. I think this year you can maybe get away with doubling Harrison because you don't. I'm not sure the third guy is automatic in against man coverage as I would have said a year ago when they were bringing Marvin Harrison Jr. off the bench. I don't think they quite have the depth. Ibuka's kind of been a disappointment until the last couple of weeks. He had not done much of this season. So I think you'll see Michigan play a lot of different looks. I think they'll borrow some of what Manny Diaz did. With an aggressive blitz package. I think he did it too much, though, and gave Stroud too many easy looks over the middle with hot reads. I think they'll be more selective where that is concerned. But I also think they'll run a lot of what they did last year, which is you show us that you can be patient enough to do this little by little down the field and not get greedy and play the game in our sandbox. And then, hey, if you get into the red zone, we'll play red zone roulette. I think it'll be a mixture of what you saw against them last year, but with a little bit more blitzing because I think the secondary that we have this year is better in coverage.
All right, y'all ready to get to predictions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Blaine, let's go ahead and start with you. We'll go to me, and then we'll let the two Michigan guys over here. wrap
I'm taking the Michigan Wolverines in this game.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm taking Michigan in this game because I think Michigan
Straight up.
Okay. I think Michigan can turn around and do what? Hand the ball off. I mean, it goes back to kind of the last year's game. That second half, Michigan started leaning on Ohio State. And I think you're going to see the same thing in this game. Michigan, one of the best offensive lines in the country. I think Blake Corum is going to have over 125 plus 2 touchdowns on the ground.
Think he's going to play?
Yeah, hell yeah, I think he's going to play. If not, I mean, it's ankle, no structural damage, correct? That's what David, that's what you told me. If not, put a cortisone shot in this thing and let's go, baby. Get your ass out there.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I know we've obviously talked a lot about Michigan. I think, and this goes back to a little bit of what Steve has said, I think Ohio State has been waiting, and you're always waiting on this game, but I think this one means more to them than it has in a long time because they have run this rivalry. Last year, they were embarrassed by Michigan and Aiden Hutchinson and what they were able to do because they did get out physicaled. They got bullied. They look at themselves as big brother in this, and why not? They've won enough now at this point, at least in my lifetime, where when I think about Ohio State, Michigan, I think about Ohio State winning the game. I think they won the game against Utah in the Rose Bowl and could have cared less about it. Ryan Day walked off the field quicker than I've ever seen him. I think they used the whole offseason talking about this game. I think they overlooked Maryland last week, about let it slip. I don't think Michigan overlooked Illinois as much as Ohio State overlooked Maryland. I think that was just a bad matchup with Illinois because they're two Spider-Man GIF teams. Michigan had a couple more guys at the end that made the difference. I think they've had this circled. I think it's going to come down to the Ohio State run game. We've talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. We talk about Ibuka. We talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba not playing. I think this is going to come down to if Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, that offensive line can run the ball. That really hurts you being able to double Marvin Harrison because that safety's eyes is going to be locked down. You're going to get a late break on it, even if you're in two-man on 3rd and long. I think Ohio State wins this game. I think they win it by at least a touchdown. I think they've had it circled. It doesn't take anything away from what Michigan has accomplished this year, but they've had this one circled. Give me Ohio State at home in a revenge game, but Michigan is not out of it. I think me and Steve, I think that's going to be one of the most interesting things to see. Whoever loses this game, how it goes down with Clemson at the end, but give me the Buckeyes to win.
Got to be on the field, though. Henderson.
Good. We couldn't.
I know. I think there's a chance.
We couldn't have a clean sweep. Michigan knows what's ahead of them. Michigan knows the challenge that is ahead of them. Your star running back may not play. Good. Give someone else a chance to step up. You haven't won in Columbus since Steve's child was born. Good. It gives you an opportunity to change the narrative. 8.5-point favorites are the Buckeyes. More than a touchdown. Good. Good. Show the country. Prove to them that you belong. Give me the Michigan Wolverines, Steve, 30-27 in the horseshoe.
Steve, what you got?
So I only put faith in Jesus, guys. And so when it comes to sports and everything else, I got to see data. I got to see precedent. Okay, I just don't know how you can pick Michigan, go down there and win until we actually do it. I think the emotion early will dig a hole. I could see it being 14-3 or something like that at the end of the first quarter. What I saw in our passing game when I was there for the Nebraska game, it's just fundamentally, systemically broken. And I think without Blake Corum, I actually think Blake Corum against a covers. You saw it against Illinois. When Illinois stacked the box, you saw Blake Corum patiently cutting back and getting huge chunks of yardage. I think he'll play. I don't think he'll be able to execute that kind of cutback ability and exploit some of the gaps that might be there from their emotion and over pursuit. I think Michigan makes a run in the second half, makes it somewhat respectable. But I think until Michigan does it, I have it 31-21 Ohio State.
Definitely. Great stuff, Steve, as usual. We always enjoy having you on the Steve Deace Show. Everybody check it out. We got to get you on after this goes down, maybe before the college football playoff, kind of preview that a little bit, and we'll see. We could have a rematch of this game, guys, in a couple weeks.
Also, Steve, I just wear what they give me these days. I need some cool gear like yours next time before we preview, Michigan. I think they put me in this on purpose.
You didn't get that.
I went up
Lindell
to I stopped at the end end with my family and spent the gross domestic product of a small Latvian country there, David. So I think I've got a few extra things for you.
Hey, does the Heisman Trophy winner come from this game? Yes or no?
I think yes. I think if Ohio State wins, I think Stroud becomes an overwhelming favorite at that point. And then if Michigan wins, there's clearly some Willis Reed, Blake Corum thing that happened here, where even if he's not carrying 20 times, 30 times, he makes a couple of plays that matter in this game and is sort of the face of that win. And this is kind of like there's an old game before I was born that kind of decided everything. The Pac-8, the Heisman Trophy, the national championship. It was UCLA, USC, Gary Beeben, O.J. Simpson. That's kind of what this is for C.J. Stroud and Blake Corum, as I think a lot is going to be determined on Saturday in Columbus.
Awesome. Steve, thank you so much, my friend. We'll be in touch.
You bet, guys. Go Blue. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. All right, great stuff there from Steve Deace. All right, guys, we're going to go from intense discussion. Thought that was great. Feel like we really dug up every nook and cranny you can in this game. And Blaine, talk the running back health real quick. Do you think Travion Williams or Henderson and Mayan Williams are going to play? I don't think there's any way they don't.
I think they have a less chance of playing than Blake Corum does.
Okay.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Blake Corum.
The Buckeyes' third-string running back went for 145 the other day.
True, but he's not Travion Henderson.
No, but I think if both teams are down to their third-string running back, which is what it could be, you got to favor the Buckeyes.
Yeah, if Blake Corum's out on the field, Michigan's going to lose a game.
See, now that is interesting. I mean, it is much of a taller task for Donovan Edwards to carry the load by himself, but if both of them don't play, then I agree.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, so like I said, intense discussion to a more fun discussion. I know Thanksgiving is over, but if college football teams were Thanksgiving foods, what would they be? We answer that question everybody's been asking since the beginning of time. Next. All right, we wanted to compare. I want to get to this. We wanted to compare or kind of say which top college football team right now, if they were a Thanksgiving food, what would they be? All right, so looking at some of the top teams, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'll start with LSU right now. To me, this is a pretty easy one. The best turkey you can have on Thanksgiving is a deep-fried Cajun turkey. Inject it with the Creole butter. And here's how it relates to LSU. Obviously, it's Cajun. It makes sense. But there's even more to that. It's got a little kick to it. It's a little bit different. Jaden Daniels may be running around making plays. You may have given up on it when you put it in the fryer. Oh, I want traditional turkey. I bet it's going to be good, but it's not going to be better than traditional turkey. Then all of a sudden you get it out and you take a bite of it and say, hey, this has a chance. This still has a chance. Just like LSU right now. And you got a little bit of extra spice to it, a little bit of extra kick. It's a little bit different down there in the boot. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm looking at LSU, comparing it to a Thanksgiving food, it's got to be the Cajun deep-fried turkey. Wouldn't you think?
Deep-fried turkey. You've been big on that for a while.
I'm telling you guys.
So we're using the cinch to fill the propane tank.
That's exactly right. It's
the Cajun deep-fried turkey. I can't wait to try it this year. We're going to try it.
You need to do it.
It's a nice wrinkle.
It is.
Right? Nice wrinkle once in a while.
That's exactly
right. But the staple is that standard turkey. Who is that this year? That's the Georgia Bulldogs.
That baked
the
turkey.
standard.
Gotta be.
Setting the standard, defending national championships, #1 team in the country this year. Tennessee comes into town. They say, nah, we got you. We're good there. Every other opponent this year, nope, victory. Look, it looks like the boys might go back-to-back. Staple, standard turkey.
Well, what I'm saying is like right now in the college football playoff, you look up, who's going to be there? Georgia. Thanksgiving. You look up, what's going to be there? A turkey. Old school in most homes.
Staple.
Old school in most homes.
Essentially can't do it without it right now. Can't have a college football playoff without Georgia right now. Can't have a Thanksgiving without turkey.
And you know what? You know what that brings me to TCU. You know what TCU is? They're the people that get ham for Thanksgiving. It's a little bit different, not used to it.
Ham's solid.
Wait, but we do
the
both.
honey baked ham.
We do both.
I'm talking about ham only.
Oh,
I'm
exclusive.
talking about exclusively ham.
No turkey.
Turkey. Haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it yet. Comes in here and ham is trying to take over. It's trying to become the norm on Thanksgiving. Okay. New coach in Sonny Dykes. New meat and ham. Maybe a little brown sugar on the outside. A little Max Dugan.
Devon told me she's the new spokeswoman for the Ham Council.
People do like the way she says ham.
Ham.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like TCU is kind of the ham of Thanksgiving. If that
I like
makes
that.
sense.
Okay.
What if I go Michigan? Can I go Michigan over here?
Go Michigan.
We kind
What
of
are you
talked
gonna
about
say,
this.
though?
Michigan is almost like the perfect baked sweet potato. Because who knew something so simple could be so perfect? And let's look at Michigan as a football team. What does Michigan like to do? Run the ball. Simple. They're going to let you know when a sweet potato's in the oven. You can what? You can smell it. That brown sugar.
Know what you're gonna
coming
get.
in. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get with Michigan. They're going to run the ball. They're not going to get too fancy, but it's so perfect. It's so on point, and it's got a little sweetness at the end of it. If you're a true football fan, there's nothing so sweet than watching a team that's physically dominate the other. So give me sweet potato.
That's true. I tell you another one, too, that popped in my head. Clemson with DJU at quarterback is 100% cranberry sauce.
The
You know
cranberry
why?
sauce.
Because it's overrated.
How
It's
dare you.
overrated.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
It's
here we
it's
go.
You don't need it.
absolutely
That's fine.
overrated.
You don't need it.
Cranberry
You do
sauce.
need it.
It's there a
You
lot
do
of
need it.
times. It's there a lot of
You do
times.
need
It's
it.
there.
But you don't need
You
it.
do need
It's there,
it.
but nobody's really. I mean, Blaine is like in the really minority here. It's cranberry sauce. He'd bathe in it if he could. But like to me, it's the most overrated. It's jelly in like circular form.
People must love it though. Like, I mean, talk to me.
It keeps coming back.
Sell me on cranberry sauce here on Thanksgiving.
After just a nice Thanksgiving meal, right? You got everything you want. You got your little portions. You got your sweet, your sour, your salty. All right. Then you just finish it off, all right, with a beautiful red, just cranberry sauce. It's sweet.
Sounds like doing
it's
wine.
savory. It's everything you want. It's relaxing. It's comfort food, and it helps. It enriches the environment around you.
I don't even know what that means, but I love it.
Jokes that were funny weren't funny before. Just you're laughing your ass off at the dinner table. Right? They're just
What?
delicious. It's almost
The
like
jokes
it's
that- it
almost
makes
like
the
it's
jokes
almost like
better?
a beautiful flaky buttermilk
basically-
ranch
Hold on.
biscuit.
You're
It's basically
you're
what it is, flubber.
you're misspelling pecan.
It's basically flubber. I'm
Flubber?
waiting for Robin
First of all,
Williams to run in with a
Flubber
white coat
solved
on.
a lot of problems.
It was a
I've been
good
on the phone with John Brinkins for years trying to figure out how Robin Williams does
rumor
that.
has it, Flubber is really Flex Seal. That one guy.
That's why it sold so
There
well.
you go. That one short fat guy. That one short fat guy. He's like
just
in the
slaps
boat.
it on.
He's like, I put cranberry sauce on here and away I go.
I want to see the behind the scenes of the Flex Seal commercials.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's Flubber.
Dude, he slaps
Second of
those
all,
things
everything
on.
you're talking about over there, savory, nice, sweetness after the meal. Everything you're saying is pecan pie. But I think
Ew,
you're confusing.
gross.
Yes.
So
Gross.
who's the pecan pie?
I just don't like nuts. Don't. I know that's a layup because there's a basketball goal next to me, but please don't.
How about
I will
chocolate
eat
chess- the
barbecue
chocolate
flavored
chess pie?
almonds. That's it. Huh?
Did you just say barbecue flavored almonds?
That's it. That's
What?
all I'll eat nut wise.
That's it?
Yeah.
You won't eat pecans.
No.
You won't eat cashews.
No.
You won't eat almonds.
Cashews?
No.
You're a monster.
You're a monster.
You
You're
don't
a
eat any of
It's
those.
not your fault.
Mike
It's not
Wazowski.
your fault. It's not your fault. It's their fault.
Go sit in timeout.
You go sit and
You go here. Let's
Why
get
don't
him
you
some
get off my
sparkling
line,
wine.
David?
There's a few important things here, though. We have to get to the dressing. We have to get to the.
You have to
I was
address
going to
the
say
dressing.
Michigan. I was going to say Michigan was the dressing. Okay, near and dear to my heart. And our Italian producer back there seems to think dressing is something you pour onto a salad.
Is there something you want to say to me?
There's a lot of confusion right now in the different geographies in which people.
Do you have a
come
team
from.
for dressing?
I was going to say Michigan, but that's already been the sweet
You know
potato.
who I
Still
think?
saying
You know
it.
who I think?
Hit me with the dressing.
I think the dressing is North Carolina because while it's really sweet when you eat it, when you touch it, it's really soft. Like North Carolina's offense is very sweet. The defense, so soft. I'm talking about
On point.
The fork goes just straight through it.
On point.
Just straight through it, straight into the end zone of if the plate was the end zone, touchdown a lot.
That's interesting. I wasn't going to go there, but I'm still trying to process everything.
Have we talked about Tennessee?
Tennessee, what's Tennessee?
Are Tennessee pigs in a blanket?
Pigs in a blanket?
You ever like the Sister Schubert pigs in a blanket rolls?
Okay, so
'Cause you
I
can
was
eat 'em
going to
really
get
fast.
to roll. But I was going to say possibly Alabama because usually Alabama's the turkey, the main center attraction, right? Not in the top this year, not going to make the college football playoff, but but they always have a presence.
They do.
And the role, while not the center of attention, it's not Thanksgiving without the role. But I could be sold on the
And guess what? And guess what?
situation.
And guess what? Roll Tide. You're a genius.
Now it's-
Congrats.
Now it's,
We're really
Congrats.
piecing things together.
Now
Now
it's
I
tough.
want to go invent
You may
something.
be the smartest
I want to
person
go
I
invent
know.
something
Yeah.
now and
That's
call it
that's
flubber.
exactly. You can Bob Lazar this whole thing.
Flex Seal.
Roll Tide.
That's exactly right.
There you go. Tennessee, though, I don't know.
Tennessee. What would Tennessee?
Corn
be?
casserole. Mashed potatoes and
I just feel like
gravy.
Tennessee has to be something spicy.
Green
right?
bean casserole. There's a
Something
lot out
spicy.
there.
Watching
Something's
Tennessee, it's fast, it's spicy. Next thing you know, someone's playing Latina music and you're doing the chimichanga or something like that. It's spicy. It's going. Is it hot sauce? Do you like hot sauce on your turkey?
No, we're already
I do.
eating Cajun
Well,
turkey.
you know what?
I
To me, at least in our household, I think it's the pecan pie. You want to know why? Because it's gone so fast.
Ooh, that's good. It goes
Nothing
fast.
it gets gone faster than the pecan pie when you whip that thing out. I have squirrels and birds and animals I didn't even know existed. Hell, animated cartoon characters are landing on my shoulder and things like that. It's Gonzo the Clown the fastest, like Josh Heupel's offense.
Is that really happening?
They may have put something in there.
Yeah, I would think so. You like a princess, you start singing and birds and squirrels start
Saying
landing
it's
on
like
you.
Sound of Music.
Just don't like pecan pie. I'm upset with myself that I don't. I wish I did. I've asked a lot of questions my whole life. Why don't I like pecans? Because everyone loves them.
Yeah.
I just don't.
How about chocolate chess pie?
See, that's the same thing.
You remember
with me
the
with
one-
Sister
you remember
Schubert
the
rolls.
one-
They're gone the fastest.
Oh, Sister Schubert rolls are absolutely.
They barely make it out of the
The
oven.
Sister Schubert roll pigs in a blanket.
Oh yeah, they barely make it out of the oven.
Like those are the bad. Look, I'll die on that hill, Mel Gibson style,
Tennessee,
dog.
You think Tennessee's soft? They're just an offensive team on the outside, and then you open it up. What's in there? A nice little glizzy, right? Nice little tough glizzy. Next thing you know, their defense is playing a
You
little.
love hot dogs, man. I've never seen somebody love hot dogs more than Blake.
Pull out the glizzy and get busy.
Next thing you know, Heupel's got that glizzy out. He's got the bread.
No, Heupel's eating a couple
He's
glizzes.
breaded. He's breaded.
What they say is
Look,
Bobby from King of the Hill.
Yeah,
Look, said
he's
Bobby-
breaded on the outside. Next thing you know, you play with him, you get the glizzy.
Yeah, I think if you cut Josh Heupel open, pigs in a blanket would fall out like a shark. When they cut him open, it's like
All
a
right, well,
tire
Josh's
falls
never
out.
coming on the show.
No, he will.
That's good
He's
to
rich.
know.
You know what? It's like Waka Flocka said. They said, "Man, you getting fat." He said, "Must be eating good."
Facts.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. If you disagree or if there's a team we didn't have on there that you want to associate with the food, let us know. Now, I know that Tennessee is out of it now, so maybe you can change the narrative a little bit on that, but it still doesn't change the way they go about things. So from one funny thing to something that I don't think a lot of y'all have seen, and maybe there's a certain group that got, let's just say, inspired by this next act. A little sports comedy here, Bob Nelson. What does this remind you of? Let's play it. So you guys know we like to react to interesting videos that we find kind of in the realm of society and the world, whatever. So our producers found this video and they text us like, you guys have got to watch this, but we want to wait until we record a segment to watch you guys react. So this is Bob Nelson. All right, he's a comedian. This is at Dangerfields in 1984. So you guys are going to be watching this along with us for the first time. So let's go ahead and start playing this bad boy.
And now, let's meet the players of the College All-Star Game.
Oh no, did Key and Peele rip this guy off?
Billy Bob Brubeck, University of Texas, right guard.
Okay, good start, good start, good start.
Tom,
How have I never seen this before?
Robert W. Wilson, Harvard University, quarterback. Hi, Muffy.
Dude, this is like the Key and Peele one. It's not as dressed up, but
Number 72. Oh, shit, 27.
that sounds like the Water Boy.
Tony Cappuccino, Brooklyn University, and
Okay, this is good. This is good. This guy's funny. This guy's legit. This is back when you could actually do comedy.
Bruce Kuskiatsky, San Francisco University, tight end.
He said San Francisco.
Next year, I hope to be a wide receiver.
Okay, okay. Give it an 8 out of 10 right now.
Oh,
Hello. Football in my life. I love football. You see me playing football on the football field with a football. But when I play football, I make sure that I always wear protective gear, such as my helmets, and them shoulder pads. Don't ever go on the field without these things on, because you could get seriously killed. I myself, when I was a little children, I was playing football with my friends, and my head was accidentally ripped from my body. And my head was laying in the mud, and my body would run around tackling shit.
He's got balloons in his shoulder.
Finally, one of my friends put my head back on my body, and the doctor said that I had Dane Bramage. But my friends don't know what the fuck that shit is.
Okay.
Anyway, the most important piece of equipment is called the cup. Now, it ain't no Dixie cup, and it ain't no coffee mug. And you certainly won't want to be drinking nothing out of it. It's a piece of Tupperware that goes right there, and then you can't get hurt. Look. There ain't no way you can get hurt when you're wearing your cup. Now, I ain't got my cup on. And I can't see shit right now.
That's the truth.
And my testicles are caught on my shoulder pad. But I am not here to talk to you about my testicles. I am here to talk to you about the United Way. The United Way is the best candy bar you can buy. Milky Way. The United... No. You can fly anywhere in the United States for $175 on the round trip.
Okay, this is a joke.
Oh, no.
Mutual Omaha. The United Kingdom will fly you to the Milky Way.
The United Kingdom will fly you to the Milky Way and further.
You see, I don't really know what the United Way is. This producer said, do the commercial real quick. I said, I don't know what it is. But I do know what UNICEF is. UNICEF is the Halloween disease with the milk container car and kids come around trick for UNICEF. Now, no, seriously, you people probably don't know. No, listen to me, man. You people probably don't know what UNICEF is. I do. I've seen them. It looked like a unicorn. But it ain't no unicorn. It's a UNICEF. It's a man with a Willie Johnson sticking up top of his head.
Willie Johnson.
This is where the term face and piss head comes from. These all over the world. And they need your money. They need your money.
Okay, let's stop the clip right here. All right, I want to out of 10 rating. Dude, that dude's pretty funny. I'm shocked I haven't seen that before.
Oh,
and man, that
man.
reminded me of the Key and Peele skit a little bit.
Yeah, the Key and Peele skit.
Donkey Teeth, Boise State University. Torque, Lewis, Nevada State Penitentiary.
You know, maybe they were
somewhat
inspired. We'll say inspired.
inspired.
We'll say the word inspired. You got to inspire before you conspire.
I feel like I laughed at this one harder.
Yeah, so out of 10, what would you rate that?
I got to give this a 10, man. We need more football content that makes me laugh this way. Also, you said I heard a little water boy.
There was a
maybe
little
Adam
water boy.
Sandler
You remember?
inspired
62.
too. Bobby Boucher.
That's it. You remember the time he showed up at halftime?
Remember when Bobby Boucher showed up at halftime and the Mud Dogs won the Bourbon Bowl, do you?
There you are.
And the Mud Dogs won the Bourbon Bowl? I do remember that.
I do remember that. Blaine, out of 10, what do you?
Solid 6. I give it a solid 6.
A 6? Wow, you hated it.
No, I mean 6 is somewhat on the.
Are you a
other
hard
side
grader?
of it.
You're a hard grader?
I wouldn't even say that. I mean, it was good, but I wouldn't say that. I mean, the punchline, the jokes weren't super funny. You had a couple. The cup thing was funny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's funny. Just when he got into the character, basically not doing the intros. The intros are somewhat good, but when he got into the character, that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny, but kind of before, because the Key and Peele was just intros, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, just intros with different name, but that was funny. I give it a 6 out of 10.
I'm going to go 8 out of 10 because I thought it was funny, and also it just reminded me of the day when comedy was actually comedy.
That is
You could
true.
Make fun of everything, and everything's equal if you can make fun of everything. Okay, guys, if you didn't figure it out, I think there, again, maybe a sketch comedy show that got inspired by that. Great stuff there, Bob Nelson, hilarious comedian. I don't think a lot of people have seen that clip. That was a lot of fun reacting to it. We hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. Hope you didn't get run over trying to get some electronics for your kid or some doll that can move its arms, just that's not named Chucky. Trust me on that one. Make sure you catch us tomorrow. We got a preview show coming up. We got the Iron Bowl tomorrow. We got the game tomorrow. Got the Civil War tomorrow. There's a lot going down. Okay, there's a lot going down. If you see Mel Gibson riding a horse with his face painted blue in front of your house, don't worry. And Paul Revere is probably not far behind him. But make sure you check us out. Then Sunday, we're going to recap it all, preview the NFL. You guys are the best audience in the world. Anything before we go, guys?
Go Blue.
War Eagle.
All right, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you check us out tomorrow morning. And like Thanksgiving week, unfortunately, they're going, gone.